Hey, everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Alice.
Hey now.
Greg, what are you doing here?
Hey, what do you mean? Allison,
Where'd you come from, Greg?
I came from the world of childish, and I just want to make sure that your listeners know that you're just as wonderful on the other podcast you do.
What if they don't have kids?
Don't need them. You don't need them. A lot of our listeners actually tell us they don't have kids. We talk about sex.
We talk about all sorts of dirty stuff, but also parenting stuff.
Yeah, so.
Check out Childish. New episodes every Wednesday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Maybe I should have got it fixed. Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison's your new best friend.
Hey, everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Allison Rosen is your new best friend. I'm very excited to talk to my guest, whom we're going to bring in a moment. But first, I must chat with my producer, Tony Thaxton, to see if anything's happened to him since the last time we talked, and also to commiserate about how hot it is in Burbank, even though you're not in Burbank, but you're still nearby and it is hot. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I haven't really been outside too much today, but I know it's been gross lately. But yeah, and I did force myself to go out on the other day, and I've made a couple both good decisions and bad decisions that fit in right now because I've got shows coming up and tours coming up that I am extremely out of shape for, so I'm trying to force myself to get back in shape because I say back in shape, but you know what I mean.
Hey, one of my favorite stories is that your band went on tour and your manager hired a trainer to get you guys all in shape. That is, I don't know why I love that story. I don't know, because it feels like a montage or something. Yeah,
I think I forgot that I'd shared that story. So when you started that sentence, I didn't know where it was going.
It was going there. Were you in shape then? Are you getting back into guy wearing a sweatsuit, blowing a whistle in your face shape?
No, I'm not. I've never been in that shape. But I just got to get. It's just playing. An hour plus of drums it's a lot, and I've been sitting around for a year and a half. So I've been trying to make myself do more, and so it's ultimately good, but. Let me tell you, it takes a lot out of you. So I'm going to do my best to
moving around.
Stay awake today.
The being moving around takes a lot out of you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I know what you mean. I decided I was going to do strength training for a week and a half is how long it lasted that I did, because it was just way too sore and I had trouble making myself do it. But the first time I did it, then Daniel and I recorded a podcast afterwards, and I just had nothing left in the tank.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I gotta power through this next hour or so, and we'll get there.
I mean, now
that me doze off, it's not you guys, it's me.
Now that we've gone public with being mortal sworn enemies, Tony, you know that I will fly into a rage if you fall asleep. Or if you don't bring it, the same rage that you have flown into at me, and by rage I mean I feel like maybe I detected a slight edge in your voice, but I'm not sure, regarding me unplugging all the equipment in my studio every week.
Yeah, I've learned that I cannot ask you questions, is what I've learned from all of this.
That's really not the vibe I'm trying to give off.
Well, it's the vibe you gave off, so.
Oh, no. See? There's that rage. Tony, I don't mind a question. Your question, it was a real loaded question. It was, if I recall, the tone, which I did not care for.
We've gone through this.
I know, but I like to beat things into the ground. Like, it's this, or I'm talking about the insects I find in my bathroom again. So give the listeners a break.
Okay.
I have trouble getting into character because I can't access my anger so easily. But it was, I meant to ask you, why do you keep doing that? It really wasn't like that, but that's what I heard.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what it felt like.
Okay.
Listen, Tony,
That's all I'm going to give you. Okay.
We're going to bring in our guests in a moment. In fact, I feel rude making them wait. But, they're not here yet. They're still in traffic. But anyway, I'm going to do something that I occasionally do with you, which is I make you comment on something where truly you're going to have no idea. I like to make you,
my favorite.
Yeah, this one is, the stakes are, don't worry, the stakes aren't that high. But this one, usually I make you try to guess something that doesn't matter, and there's no way you can guess. But now I have to make a decision involving my child, and I've made extensive pro and con lists here. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to read it to you, and then you just tell me which decision to make.
Oh, so, I'm making the decision. Not what is the decision. I'm making the decision.
Yeah. You're going to listen to my pro and con list, and you're going to tell me what you think as an outsider who does not have all the information, but who knows me. I'm just hoping you'll hear something in this. I just want to know. I just want to know what you think.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the background.
I never overthink things or anything. This is just going to be perfect, yeah.
You're right. I should pull in some, who do we know who doesn't overthink things at all? Greg Heller?
Judging things I don't know about. The Greg Heller story.
No. Anyway, okay, here's the deal. So for Elliot, my 4-year-old, I am choosing whether to keep him in pre-K for the fall or to see if we can switch to DK. DK is developmental kindergarten, and it's like a longer day. And it is very complicated, the difference, why they sometimes have DK or TK or EK. There's all these different kindergartens, but basically one is a longer day and one is like half a day. So anyway, here we go. So for DK, the longer day, the pros are it would get him more prepared for kindergarten, more confidence, ? Cuter schoolroom. I know that is ridiculous, but I know I've seen the two different rooms at the preschool, and the DK one is cuter. And one of the teachers seems to want him in that program. The cons: expense. You have to sign a contract saying you're on the hook financially for the entire year. Earlier start time takes him away from his friends, because I think more of his friends are in pre-K, and then takes him away from a particular teacher that I like a lot. Schedule not ideal. Okay, for pre-K, here's the pros. My gut said pre-K. Later start time, more affordable. His friends are in pre-K. Then the cons: not as confidence building, less cute room. Missing out? Because I'm like, is he missing out on something by not going to DK? Okay, Tony, what say you?
At first I thought this was going to be easy because I will fully admit I misunderstood at first, because I thought your question was that I misunderstood what this DK was, and I thought that was going to be something you were doing from home. I thought that was the concern of whether to send him to a place or do this from home.
Right.
So I was already there, and then you said something about the cute room, and that threw me.
No, this is all him going. This is assuming we are going to school.
I'm going to go with you said that the pre-K is not as good for the confidence building.
Well, I don't know. It's a shorter day. They claim both programs get them ready for preschool. Pre-K is a shorter day. So there's this idea that maybe the longer day, he'll be more confident for kindergarten because he's already done something akin to that. I'm sort of the mind that well, then he can just do it when he's the age to go to kindergarten.
Yeah, that's tough. But I have no idea how to make this decision. It's not my child, but I'm gonna just go. I'll go the DK.
Interesting.
Because I understand you're saying he may be away from his friends, but he also maybe will make some new friends.
Yeah.
And if this confidence thing, not that I think he has an issue with confidence, he's wonderful. But
apparently he's a little.
Those sound like they could be good things.
Apparently he's a little bit on the more timid side in school. Not when
really?
you come over, he's not. He's all up your butt.
Not at all. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Tony.
That's my quick, not think about it too hard thought. Yes.
All right.
There you go. You're welcome.
I'm glad that you made that decision for me because it allowed me to see what I really want to do. And I think I would rather send it to pre-K. You're fired. Okay.
That's what I had a feeling. I thought this was all set up because no matter what I said, then you would say the opposite.
Yes. Imagine trying to choose a restaurant with me.
That sounds great.
True nightmare. Okay. That was fun. Thank you. Listen, we have a wonderful guest who has arrived. She is a comedian, a podcaster, a writer, a performer. She makes these really great podcasts, like really intelligent, thoughtful, not like this off the cuff crap, real, like written out podcasts. We're going to get into more detail of what I'm specifically talking about. But Tony, you had a look on your face like I was insulting you. And I was just trying to, in a self-effacing way, insult myself. I believe in this project. Anyway, my year in Mensa, Bechdel Cast, Lolita Podcast, Aack Cast, that's her most recent one, about reconsidering the Cathy comic, among so many other things. Please welcome to the show, Jamie Loftus.
Hey, what's up?
Hello. Welcome.
Wow. Such a warm reception.
I know, it's crazy that we were able to squeeze a whole live audience in here.
Everyone's masked. It's great.
Yeah. Well, it does seem to be spiking. So we got a little loose with letting, vaccinated audience members not wear a mask. And then suddenly we had to do our mask mandate again. So you know how it is.
It's complicated. Yeah.
So you are in Wisconsin. Is that right?
I'm in Wisconsin right now. Yeah. I've been traveling around a bit this summer.
Are you just traveling for fun, or is this work-based travel?
It's a little bit of both. It's I haven't seen my family in a really long time, and I'm doing research for the next project that I'm working on, which is about hot dogs.
Oh, cool.
So I've been going around the country eating various hot dogs.
So are you doing a podcast about hot dogs?
I think I will be. I can't say exactly what I'm doing, I don't think yet, but yeah, it just involves a lot of hot dog based research. So I've been going around to like local places, and then I'm trying to learn more about the production of hot dogs, which is horrifying.
Yeah.
I went to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest on Coney Island, the whole hot dog experience.
Have you? Oh, I don't know why I'm asking about this because I don't want to know, but I'm asking anyway. Again, I no one send me any information. Have you gone to like a slaughterhouse or anything like that? Is that part of what you're doing?
No, I'm strategically saving that for the last leg of research because I was like, well, if I do that first and then I don't know if I'll want to travel the country eating hot dogs after that.
Right.
So I'm saving the ins and outs of the meat production industry for last because I just don't have a good feeling about it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're going to be able to handle it?
I don't know. I've never been in a situation like that. I don't know. I didn't grow up remotely rural. I don't know any butchers. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
It was difficult enough watching a man eat 76 hot dogs. It was amazing.
Who won?
But I wonder
who won this year?
Mr. Joseph Chestnut, as usual.
Every year. He really has this on lock.
He really is like the Simone Biles of hot dogs. Like he can do... He is at this point like competing with himself.
Right.
It's incredible.
How many hot dogs do you think you could eat?
I know that if I eat more than 4 in a day, it'll be difficult for me and for whoever's with me. Because we were like, yeah, I've been going around with my boyfriend, and yeah, if I eat more than 4 in a day, it's going to be a rough night and a rough morning. That's a lot of nitrates to put in your body.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So like I was saying in the intro, just really admire your work.
Oh, thank you.
Feel very inspired when I hear your podcast because they're educational and they're so well done, and it kind of reminds me they're scholarly. How do you get the idea? Like, how did they all come about? That your particular format for doing a podcast and the ideas and things like that.
I think, yeah, for the ones that I've done by myself that are more scripted and researched, it kind of like started as, the first one I did was about being in, like, getting into Mensa as like a joke and then getting sucked into what that group is, which I didn't realize there was like a lot of alt-right stuff. There was a specific Facebook group that like was officially sanctioned by Mensa that targeted and harassed people in the group on the basis of just about anything. And so I got sucked into that for almost a full year. And then once it was over, I was like, well, I don't really know what to do. Like, this could just be something that happened to me. But I was trying to just find what the best format was to talk about it and to like process the experience and you know, share some information. And it ended up being that podcasting was the easiest way to get out my thoughts. So I just wrote like this really, really, really long essay and then retrofitted it to be 4 episodes of a podcast. And I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to enjoy that process as much as I did. But once I did, I started working with iHeartRadio, and they just, they love content. They love when you give them content to put advertisements in. And so they offered to give me some funding to make some more. And it's been really cool. They've given me like a ton of creative freedom where I'll send them basically, you know, like 5 or 6 things of like, here are some obscure topics that I think that there's more to, and they'll pick
hot
one
dogs
and
comics, a book.
Yeah, a book with a horrific theme. And yeah, so that's kind of came about by accident, and it's become like a really cool, sometimes in over my head kind of job.
That's really neat. How did you start working with iHeartRadio? Like, had you when in the production of My Year in Mensa did the iHeartRadio thing happen?
It didn't come out. iHeartRadio acquired it later, because that was, yeah.
So you did it on your own first.
Yeah, because it was, I mean, and I understand it. It was frustrating at the time, but when I was talking to people about what I was working on and what I was doing, the feedback was generally like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Because when there was, I mean, I was like, oh yeah, Mensa, it's scary. And, people, understandably, like, people were just like, awesome, bye. So I made it completely independently. But I had been working originally with How Stuff Works through Jack O'Brien, who's been the greatest advocate for me and so many people. And he's the only reason I'm getting to do what I get to do. So I had originally started working with him on the Bechdel Cast, which also started independent and then moved over there. And it's kind of just like taken off from there. So it's been super lucky to kind of get to go on that journey with Jack. He's so great.
That's so cool. Yeah, I wish I should mention I initially met you because you were guest hosting the Daily Zeitgeist, and I was a guest.
Yeah.
One of the things I like so much about your podcast, so I have a journalism background and I wrote for alt weeklies, and I could see these topics being extended essays that are, like you said, that ran in alternative weeklies, which I feel like the market has changed. I don't even know how much that those kind of pieces and those kind of weeklies exist anymore. But you had written for My Year in Mensa, some of that ran in Paste, right?
Yeah. So as all of the original kind of fiasco was unfolding, I was originally writing for Paste just about taking the test, and they like give you a little bit of money and you go do something ridiculous, and then you whatever. I mean, it was
like kind of like
stunt
journalism in a way, right?
Yeah, and that's like how, I mean, all of my early writing for Paste and for Vice and stuff like that, it was all kind of that category, and I liked it. And then it was also, I don't know, I feel like you kind of just hit a ceiling on stuff like that, where at some point I'm like, I think I'm just humiliating myself for $50.
Right.
And that doesn't feel great. And with Mensa, it was like not just like poking fun at yourself. It was like, oh, this is actually kind of a deeply uncomfortable and kind of dangerous situation that I just couldn't stop. And so, yeah, originally I imagined, because I'd just been writing about it before, I was like, oh, I'll just kind of write a conclusive piece about it. But it was too long and no one wanted to run it. And someone suggested that they're like, oh, well, you do the Bechdel Cast, just like record it and release it yourself and see if anyone, cares. And that was kind of, and that's what I did.
How much? So you had a death threat, which may have been a joke, but doesn't really seem like it. Who knows? And that, and just a lot of online ire and also in-person hostility at you when you went to the annual gathering of Mensa, right? How did all of that affect you?
I feel like I'm still slowly finding out. I mean, I think that one of the big takeaways from doing all of that was just realizing things like everyone knows, but just seeing it in this kind of extreme example of how people's online personas can be like completely diametric to who they are in real life, and like including me too, because it was, in this Mensa group that I was alerted to, and it's not the entire group that's like this, but it's a large chunk, right? And they were just slinging shit all over the place, and it was like, oh, this is like a very toxic, scary environment. And then you
which
meet
is
people
very
in person.
Sorry to cut you off. It's just very surprising because Mensa, high IQ group, you just assume it's like smart people sitting together wearing sweaters with patches, being really erudite. That's what I imagine.
That's what I thought. Yeah. That's and when I was going into the original piece, which isn't like, it was a little mean-spirited when I was doing it first, which was just like, oh, I'm just going to like make fun of dorks and be like, oh, look at this like doofy test I took and I didn't pass. And, fine. They can have their board games. See if I care. But then, when I got in and the more I learned about it, it like did start to come together of like, oh, this is a group of people that have formed a community around thinking they're better than other people based on a pretty, randomized metric that is skewed in favor of white people and in general of men, and then going into the history of what IQ is. It's completely rooted in a lot of eugenic science, and just it's so exclusionary by nature that like the deeper I went into learning about the origin of the group, the more the types of people that I was encountering in these groups specifically, because there were some people who were really just like chilling and wanted to play board games and just hang out. But there was a large group of people that, kind of fit in with that kind of historical context of what it was. And so it was like bizarre to see. I don't know. It's like you just never think you're going to meet shit posters in real life.
Right.
And people act differently. And then I act differently too. Cause it's like, I was, on pace being like, I'm a dumb slut that got into Mensa, blah, 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 blah. And in person, I'm pretty withdrawn and pretty shy. And I was, also very nervous being there. So I was not like, like leaving it all out there. I don't think I came off as very confident. And
did you say confident or competent?
Confident. But I would say competent as well. I mean, it's just, it was such a bizarre situation that I did voluntarily put myself in that, it just sort of became this study of like how different people are once they have to actually speak with each other.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that my takeaway wasn't like, oh, we just need to all sit down and talk. It's like, no, like both versions of everybody was pretty fucked up. Yeah.
When I worked for the OC Weekly, this thing came across my desk, a convention of the Romance Writers of America. They were meeting in Brea. So I brought it to my editor and I was like, I think there could be a good story here. And I checked into the hotel and I was supposed to spend 2 nights there. I left after one and I never wrote a story because I couldn't find the story. And this, I look at this as like one of my... I'm not proud of that. There's a few stories where like that I didn't write. I feel like everyone who's a writer has that though, but I always felt sort of shame around that. And this one I feel like was not my finer moment. But I just this loneliness and isolation descended on me during that night in Brea. And I like couldn't push through it. And it wasn't what you had. It wasn't people being hostile to me. It was just people who knew each other. They all knew each other and they all had these relationships. And I was very much on the outside of it. And also I think that I had this idea that it was going to be like romance readers. That's what I was picturing.
Right.
What we picture the women who, or it could be, I don't mean to just gender it, but in general, the women who consume romance novels. But these were the writers, and it was just totally like not what I expected. And I just went home and just like was so happy to not be there anymore because it was so alienating. And I was thinking about when I was listening to my year in Mensa of you being, at the Sheraton in Phoenix with all these people who don't like you, except for for a couple friends. It just reminded me of that.
So that's so interesting. I think it's really cool that you're like, there's not a story here. So like, I'm not going to force one. I don't know. I admire that. I feel like people force stuff too much sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's like such a bizarre experience being in any room where you're kind of like the only person that isn't totally sure what everyone's talking about, or like, I don't know. Yeah. I had such a preconceived notion of the type of person I was going to meet, and then to be both wrong and alone and not sure how to communicate. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I had like felt like that way since like 7th grade.
Yes. Was 7th grade hard for you? 7th grade was my, nadir. That's the lowest, right? Nadir is low.
So.
Zenith is high. I always forget. It was a real low point for me.
Yeah.
7th grade was low. What was yours like?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I like got a back brace in middle school and had it through most of high school. So just any time after that was like not my best time.
What did you have the back brace for?
I had bad scoliosis. So it was like, I don't know, this was like the mid to late 2000s. And so they had like back braces that it wasn't like a neck thing. You could wear it under your clothes, but it was just like, I was like a really, really scrawny kid. And I just had like a mysteriously large torso and like was just like, just torn to shit for it. Cause it, like whether people knew what it was or what it wasn't, it looked so silly and was so uncomfortable. And I just really had to develop a personality at that time.
Do you think that if you hadn't gone through that, do you think you would be doing something different now?
I don't know. I was like kind of a withdrawn. I always knew that I wanted to like write stuff, so I'm sure I would be doing something writing involved. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, that was a real challenge. I feel like that was when I started to rely more on like trying to be funny to people and entertaining. Of like, I need to justify my presence in this space because I feel like a fucking freak and like I'm really ruining everyone's time with my large plastic torso.
Did you read Deenie? Your
yeah. Oh my god.
Everyone says that to you when you mention scoliosis, right?
I had 6 copies of Deenie because my aunts just like didn't know how to deal with the situation. And they're like, Deenie, there's a book for that. I I need to like reread it because I don't even really remember what happens, but I feel like it's kind of a downer.
Yeah, I don't remember it that well either, although I know. So Deenie, it's a Judy Blume book. She has scoliosis. I think there's something like she or her sister was named after some character in a movie who has like a tragic end. And I know that she masturbates with a washcloth in the bathtub. That's like all I remember of it. But I have a sort of, when I think about it, I have like a sad, non-warm feeling. So I think it was not a super happy book.
Yeah, I just remember when I don't remember the specific events. I do think that there was a moment where like Deenie was like really thoroughly rejected by her peers. And I just remember being like, why did they give me this book? This is not making me feel better about my predicament at all. Yeah, I kind of want to go back to it now. I'm over it now. I can like, consume scoliosis media at this point.
I feel like there's just not that much unless there's more that I'm not aware of. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Massachusetts, in Brockton, Mass, and most of my family is still over there now.
Mm-hmm. And you said you were kind of a withdrawn child with large plastic torso.
Yes, yeah.
And then for wait, did you go to Emerson?
I did, yeah.
What did you major in?
I ended up majoring in radio. So yeah, I worked at the radio station there and then started doing comedy while I was there.
Was that like, what was your first career aspiration? You said you knew you wanted to write.
I knew I wanted to write, but I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. And I liked the idea of performing, but I also lacked the confidence to really like commit to trying it, especially like at, I don't know, Emerson was such a theater school that I'm like, well, I can't do that. So I'm going to need to figure out something else. And so at the time I felt like radio was kind of the best compromise of all of those things. And I really liked, and I needed to have a job to stay in school. So, and they would pay you to work at the radio station. So it just kind of all worked out. And I started, and then like towards the end of college, I tried out stand up and was like feeling confident enough off of feeling okay on the air on the radio. So it was like very, very baby steps towards being willing to be by myself in front of people.
Right. And so then what, after college, what did you do?
After college, I really wanted to leave Massachusetts. So I was working 2 full-time jobs for like my first year out of college, which is like, I don't know what I was doing, but I was like working at the Boston Globe at like boston.com for a year. And that was super lucky because I was not qualified to do it, but they were just kind of, I think it was like very like clickbait era. It was like 2015. And so they were just like, we'll hire any 22-year-old and pay them garbage and they'll have no idea what's happening to them. And I was like, oh, I'm a writer. This is so exciting. Yeah. And then I was also working as like a bartender at the comedy theater that I performed at. So it was like doing that until I had enough money to move to LA. And then I did.
And then how was your adjustment when you got here? Did you have friends here?
Not really. No, because I knew a couple of people. I like had acquaintances, but I didn't have like close friends. And so it was like a rough first year. But I don't know. Yeah. Once I got through the first year and like had made friends in comedy, and there were so many comics who were so welcoming, and it was like such a different scene from Boston comedy. And I love Boston comedy, but it's not, the most welcoming scene in the world. And so I just, it took a while. And then I also like went through the signature, like started dating someone immediately. And then like 4 months later was like, hold on, this is ruining my life. So it was like the whole, the whole first year in LA experience.
Why was it ruining your life?
The it was just like not a very nice guy, you know. It's like and also it's like whatever. I was still like, I could date a comedian and that will work out fine for me, which it like literally never has. I had just broken up with, or like gone through a breakup with, I guess, a different comedian. Moved here, immediately started dating another comedian. And it just didn't go well.
Did you tend to date? Well, did you tend to date comedians because those are the people you're around?
Yeah. And then when I first started performing, it was like I started dating someone at the same time I was starting comedy, and we did comedy together. And then it was a I mean, looking at it now, it's like, oh, I just wasn't confident that I could do anything by myself in comedy. And I didn't think that I was like good enough to stand alone. And so I would kind of, you know, take shit from other people because I wasn't sure if I could actually like do it or not. And then once I figured out, it's like, oh no, I can do this. I don't need to, you know, be treated this way by random open micers. And my life has improved generally since that happened.
Where do you think, if you know, the lack of confidence came from? And I have to say, I feel like that's a perfectly normal response to a new thing. But at the same time, like, there's tons of people who just think they're God's gift to everything right off the bat.
I know. I every time I encounter someone with, and it's like that can go so both ways, because sometimes when I meet people who are just like exude natural confidence, it can be such a positive, like motivational thing to be like, oh, they know what they're doing and they're not afraid to let people know, and like they're not in a constant death spiral of doubt. And then it's like you see it go the other way of like, why are you confident? You're terrible at this. Like, I don't know. I mean, I can't remember a time really that I mean, when I was a kid, I think I was like, I could, you know, do anything. And, but especially once I got to college, I think I just like felt so out of my element. I like had a difficult time relating with people. Once I got to college specifically. And yeah, like in my early 20s, it was just like nonstop self-doubt in almost any area.
What was high school like?
High school was, I feel like it was like kind of unusual that high school was way better for me than college was, where I had my plastic torso, but I had like a really sweet group of friends. I have a huge family, so I had like backup cousins to be friends with. And I don't know. And my high school was also huge. It was like 5,000 kids at a public school. And so you couldn't even really get, like, you would get bullied and people would give you shit, but the school was kind of too large to sustainably bully anyone or like sustainably even bother anybody. And so you could kind of like fly under the radar and try different stuff and just kind of have fun. I don't know. I was like a dork in high school and like did school band and like did drama club and all that stuff. But it was just, I don't know, people were just nicer. I had more fun.
Your interest in feminism, which I think you hear in all the podcasts, but like very specifically in Aack Cast, Lolita Podcast as well. When did that start?
I mean, yeah, I had always been interested in feminism, but not in a way that like took precedence in my work or daily life. And so, especially once I moved to LA and I had kind of gotten out of that relationship and was kind of navigating all this stuff that I hadn't processed or understood. And then my friend Caitlin Durante came to me and wanted to start a feminist movie podcast. And that, I mean, honestly, it's probably like working on that show on the Bechdel Cast that has like moved my brain the most on feminism and on intersectionalism and on all this stuff that we talk about on that show. It's been like such a cool 5 years just figuring stuff out and like learning from our listeners and from each other. And I don't know, it's been a good experience. But yeah, it's like a combination of personal stuff and just that show and the community around it.
Yeah. Listening to your podcast makes me want to go back to school. Which is that's a big. I hope feels like a compliment. Yeah, because I haven't thought in 100 years about the women's studies class that I took. Of course I consider myself a feminist, but just the actual the different waves and the different theories and all that stuff. And I realized I never even read The Feminine Mystique. Should I?
Yeah, me either.
Should I read it?
No. I'd skip it.
Okay.
It's pretty dated. It's so weird because it's but with this show, with all of them, it's I'm learning in real time too. Where, 2 months ago I couldn't have broken down the different waves of American feminism for you even remotely. But now it's it's such a fun dense thing to work through because it's I vaguely remember taking classes like that, but even going back and I was trying to look at these old college syllabuses I still had, and so much of it is just not even there. And so it's been fun and challenging, and I hope I'm not missing too much, trying to find stuff that was just missed, because it's I knew about the Feminine Mystique. I remember having to read a section of it, but I definitely wasn't given any context for who Betty Friedan was politically, or that she was wildly homophobic, or just, I don't know, I feel there's the same, whatever, all students read the same 5 essays, but there's no actual kind of context for what it is. So it's kind of fun to look through.
Right. Yeah. It's just so cool to watch someone do something that is researched and scholarly, but outside of the confines of school. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't have to stop thinking that way. Not that I've stopped thinking that way, but you know what I mean? I'm not even able to finish my sentences because my thoughts are just half thoughts. But I'm going to trust that everyone knows exactly what I mean. I want to ask you about Cathy, but first I want to tell everyone if you're feeling depressed or struggling with uncertainty or having difficulty sleeping or meeting your goals, BetterHelp offers online professional counselors who can listen and help. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. I have 2 friends who are doing BetterHelp right now. This past year, it has been difficult to start up with a traditional therapist. There's super long wait lists. And they're doing BetterHelp, and they are benefiting so much from it. I think you guys know I believe wholeheartedly in therapy. Been in therapy I feel like therapy is has made the single greatest difference in my life. That's been my own experience with it. But I always recommend, anyone who's open to it, I think you could benefit from it. And BetterHelp is really good. And also, if you feel like the first therapist you're matched with isn't a great match, you can change as many times as you want. There's no extra charge. They'll get you to someone that is the right match. And BetterHelp can be more affordable than traditional therapy, and financial aid is available. Our podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and our listeners get 10% off their first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/bestfriend. Visit BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/bestfriend, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced BetterHelp professional. I also want to talk to you guys about Rothy's. They make the most comfortable shoes. You can wear them right out of the box without blisters, which I don't know that any other shoe can claim that. I've mentioned before, but I'll say it again. Our dog walker, Kathleen, was wearing Rothy's around the time that I learned about Rothy's. And I said, "Are those Rothy's?" And she said, "Yes, I can wear them without blisters." And she makes her living on her feet. That feels like another commercial. But it's not. It's my commercial for Rothy's. People who make their living on their feet wear Rothy's, and they're super duper stylish. And now they have launched men's shoes. They're intentionally designed with an artisanal level of detail. You know what kind of detail you deserve? An artisanal level. And created with nearly zero waste, Rothy's men's shoes are durable, washable, and better for the planet. Plus, rigorous testing during R&D results in a perfect fit wash after wash. Yeah, if I didn't mention, you can just toss them in the washing machine. And do you know how many celebrities are all about Rothy's? Almost all of them. Certainly a lot of them.
Oh.
Step, are you wearing Rothy's?
No, I'm not wearing any shoes.
But-
I was going to say anything, but that is not true.
But if you were going to wear shoes, I would hope that it would be Rothy's, Jamie. Step up your summer wardrobe with washable, sustainable, stylish shoes and bags from Rothy's. Head to rothys.com/Allison to find your new warm weather favorites today. That's Rothy's, ROTHYS.com/Allison. Again, Rothy's, ROTHYS.com/Allison. Okay, so Aack Cast about Cathy comics by Cathy Geiswhite. What gave you the idea to do that podcast?
It was a couple things. I mean, honestly, there were these. When there's like a viral tweet that like just makes the rounds, and it's always from a different person, but it's like the same joke or the same idea or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had seen like. It was like the third time I had seen this version of a viral tweet being like, hey, the lady who wrote the Cathy comics was really hot, and like posting these pictures of her. And she was really hot. She is really hot. And so I just like, it had been like pinging in my head every couple of months from the tweets that I was seeing. And so eventually I was just like, maybe that is like interesting and something that I would want to learn more about, because I just remember, I don't know, like I had just finished Lolita Podcast, which was a great experience, but it was just really emotionally taxing, and it was just like, it was so heavy, and we were in lockdown, and my boyfriend was editing it, so it was just like a very bad vibe in the house. So I was like, okay, the next one I do, I definitely want to be about something like light, and like I want to have fun. I don't want to be so sad. And so Cathy kind of just like it just sort of presented itself. I pitched it to Jack, and then I had to, obviously pitch it to Cathy Geiswhite to get her permission and hopefully her cooperation with the show. And it's just been like such a fun show to put together. Like, she's been so wonderful. The comics, I really like finding topics that like everyone is vaguely familiar with, but no one actually knows anything about. And so Cathy was like the fun side of that.
Right.
So it was good. And then, I got paid to read Cathy comics for a month and a half. That was great.
That's interesting that you needed to get her permission.
I mean, I don't think I like necessarily needed to, but I did. I mean, I did want to. Like, if I reached out to her and she was like, "This idea is, anathema to me, and I hate it," like I wouldn't have gone through with it, because I really like her, and so I was really hoping that I would be able to interview her for the show, and hopefully, connect with other people in her life and in that industry. So it was just the kind of thing where I wouldn't have done it without her blessing, just because I just really like her.
Right. It is really interesting the way that, because I know that prior to listening to your show, there are times of my life where I have been like, I sound like a Cathy comic. And it's not a compliment. When I say that about myself, it's like I sound like a typical woman who's like, oh, my period. Oh, I need chocolate. Oh, no, like, where's my boyfriend? Like, all those things, like stereotypical basic woman stuff, which is really not fair to what the comic is. That's kind of your point. Why do you think we regard it that way?
I feel like it is truly like, so I don't know. I just finished working on an upcoming episode that's like all about how specifically boomer she is, and how boomer the era she was popular in was. And I think it has a lot to do with her being the only, the only woman writing about single women in the newspaper at this time. And I think that it was like connected to the way that, I don't know, it's kind of challenged the way that I think about female protagonists in general too, where it's like all this character does is fail. Like she fails all the time, and she doesn't fail only in the ways that she's stereotyped as failing, but it's just like it's just always going to be an uphill climb for her. She's like so far from being a superhero type character. Mm-hmm. And people just like were not having it. I don't know. I mean, but at the same time, it was like it was $1 million industry to be in the business of Cathy, because there were so many women who were failing in the exact same ways. And with I guess, where are my thoughts? And then the other thing is, I think that people didn't even seem to consider that it could be satirical, mm-hmm. which most of it is. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it is just kind of a weird case study in how people interpret women's work in male-dominated industries, where I never, in all the articles I read about her from the 70s and 80s and 90s, all of it was like with the assumption that it was just a one-to-one of like, this is just what women are like, and blah, blah, blah. And it was just never taken into consideration that it was satire, and that if you have a female protagonist, like, it's like she's commenting on all the ways that women were kind of failed by American culture, and people just didn't get it or like it, or I don't know. But then it also, it's interesting how it slowly kind of became the insult that it did. I don't know. Yeah, I remember my mom loved Cathy comics, and I didn't understand what they were about, and I didn't, because whatever. It's like if you're 8, you're not gonna mm-hmm. be like exactly.
You've nailed my experience to a T.
Right. Like, but reading them as an adult, it's like, yeah, it's not like the most progressive text in the history of texts, but it's just, I don't know, there's so much pressure put on stuff like that when you're the only mm-hmm. woman doing it. And so I just feel like there's just like a needless amount of pressure and scrutiny put on a silly comic strip that was like satirizing being a middle-class boomer lady.
There's one Cathy comic that for some reason I read it when I was young, and for some reason I still remember it. I just thought it was so clever at the time. I was a big For Better or Worse fan, so that was
Ooh,
yeah. But
great.
It was Cathy at the doctor weighing her, or maybe she's home, but she's weighing herself, mm-hmm. and she's like, blah blah blah, plus 5 pounds or plus 10 pounds for horizontal stripes.
Right.
I don't know why that just tickled my funny bone, but I just enjoyed that.
Hell yeah. Some of them are genuinely funny. Like I don't know. It's so weird, like ridding yourself of the guilt that you feel for enjoying a Cathy comic. I'm like, some of them are just goddamn good, and they're funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, even to the point where it's like I did have originally a little bit of hesitance from Cathy Geiswhite when I told her I wanted to do this show, because she was assuming, because I'm like a young woman, that I was going to be making fun of it the whole time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It just is like, no, I don't know. It's she was one of the only women doing it, and it ran for 12,000 strips, and says so. I mean, I guess I can't think of a better phrase of For Better or For Worse, but like For Better or For Worse, it said a lot about the time that she was living in. So,
that's so interesting that she assumed it was going to be critical.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like I get why she would have, because so many people came down on her so hard over just like assumptions of what the strip was actually about. When I don't know. I don't know how she dealt with it. It seemed just incredibly frustrating.
Right. And what made you decide to do a show about Lolita?
That one was something that I had wanted to do, but I didn't know. Again, it was like kind of like Mensa, where it was like I didn't know what format was going to make sense. I didn't know. I just didn't no, but that's something that I'd wanted to look at for a long time. And I worked on that. I mean, that was like entirely made in quarantine. And so it was, I mean, very lucky that I could be working from home through that whole time. And I just was like, well, I guess now is the time to do it, because there's just so much. And it was, I don't know, I've never worked on something like that before, that was just like so much material and so many people to talk to and so many perspectives to consider, that I was like, I don't know if I'll ever have a time like this again, to like really sit with this and to give this work the kind of time and consideration it needed. So I don't know. And yeah, I just, with Lolita, I read it when I was a kid.
Same.
It had been like recommended to me by a children's author that I admired.
Oh, wow.
Which is just like, so yeah, I was like, and I still am in spite of this, but I was like the biggest Lemony Snicket fan in the world when I was a kid. And he had given like this interview to Nickelodeon magazine about what his favorite books were. And he said Lolita. And so I was like, well, if it's his favorite book, I have to go get it right now. And in retrospect, it's like, why was he recommending this book in Nickelodeon magazine? That is so, like, so bizarre and irresponsible. But I read it, and it just stuck with me. And the fact that it has like such a huge culture surrounding it, in like almost every era since it came out. I just wanted to like take a look at it and see how it held up, and to see kind of how it had been changed in adaptation to almost be more pro-abuser than the original text was. And that was a tough project to work on, but it was, it totally changed the way that I looked at a lot of stuff.
I need to reread it. It's like somehow it existed in my mind in like a separate category of like, this is just about language and words, and not ever really thinking about like, no, it's about pedophilia, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's just narrated by a child sex abuser trying to like justify his own crimes.
Right.
And I don't know. Yeah. It was also introduced to me under the guise of like, it was either like, oh, this is like, have you ever heard of an unreliable narrator? Here's this. Or the other way it was introduced to me was like, there's so many covers of that book that say like the greatest American love story of all time. And just complete, like, and I don't know if did you ever get into the 1997 movie adaptation of
was
it?
That with Jeremy Irons?
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that one.
I don't recommend it. I think it's a really, really irresponsible, bad adaptation.
Dominic Swain, right?
Yeah, and she's like wonderful. She's like it's so it was such a frustrating process looking at the book, which was fascinating, and I learned a lot about, I don't know, I think that the book generally does hold up, and that it's a solid work. But all the adaptations, it's like the people that were adapting this story, it just never made sense. It was like to such a like ridiculous degree where it was like Stanley Kubrick, in what world does it make any sense for him to like, how is he going to know what to do with this? Which like he didn't. And then the 1997 one is Adrian Lyne, who is like coming off of the success of Fatal Attraction, which is whatever, fundamentally misunderstands women in so many ways. And there was one, my favorite bad adaptation, because some are truly, I find the Adrian Lyne one genuinely frustrating and upsetting because it's still popular, and it's like you can watch it for free on YouTube, and I watched it for free on YouTube when I was 13, and totally, it totally runs with the idea of this is not a crime, this is a love story, in a way that's like that. It is harmful, and the internet culture kind of
he murders her mom.
That.
That makes me feel sad.
He murders her?
Yeah. She's too young to be without a mom.
everything he does is terrible. And the book is aware of that. And the movies don't, the movies kind of recast him as this romantic hero. But yeah, my favorite bad adaptation of Lolita is there was like a failed Broadway musical that was written by the guys who did My Fair Lady, and the music is online. It is like Springtime for Hitler status, misunderstanding, horrible tone, like how it's just, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to go look that up.
Yeah, there's a line in one of the songs that's like, who is that viper who likes them post diaper? Like, it's just
God.
like some of the freakiest. It's basically Springtime for Hitler.
Have you read Pale Fire?
Yeah, not for a long time, but yeah.
I read that in college and really liked it. I need to go back and reread that one too.
He's really fascinating. Yeah. I went into that project with like not a lot of idea of like who Nabokov was or anything like that, but he's pretty cool. He seemed like an interesting guy.
Mm-hmm. And not writing in his mother tongue is kind of impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I can barely form a sentence in the only language I know.
I know. Same.
So good for him.
Good for Vlad. I'm on Patreon and I take questions on Patreon. Patreon.com/Allison Rosen. All sorts of you get bonus episodes weekly of what I have decided. I just decided it was called the Friend Zone because Allison Rosen is your best friend. The Friend Zone. However, Daniel's mom, that's my husband, his mom just brought us like a bag of mementos, including this little laminated card. I hope it's okay that I'm going public with this. His laminated card that he and his friend made in high school that has a picture of him, a teddy bear, and then in like script writing, it says the Friendship Club. And he's like, you get that it was a joke, right? It's a joke. We were joking. Why would we put a teddy bear on it? But it is so amazing that I'm like, man, maybe I should name these episodes the Friendship Club and use that card as the image. So anyway, it's either the Friend Zone or the Friendship Club. There's also a level where you can text me and I'll text you back. In fact, the people who are at the texting level, my confidants, they have already received a picture of this friendship card. A lot of them have said it's the best thing they've ever seen, and I have to agree. And Zoom parties and all sorts of fun stuff. And then on the Thursday show, when we do it via Zoom, you get the video. You will get videos of all them, but my studio's just not really. I just haven't gotten my shit together to get totally set up for video yet. Anyway, patreon.com/Allison Rosen, and you can submit questions for guests. Let's answer some questions.
Okay.
When we ask, they send them in. They're wondering how you have been. So thanks so much for answering these questions from our fans.
All right. Justin Roberts has a question, and I don't know what it's related to. So hopefully you will. Has she found a new tuna sandwich spot? Also, was that Dunkin Donuts story real? If so, fuck yes. I obsess over finding the best sandwich or lettuce wrap for each meal of the day.
Yes. Okay. So I know exactly what Justin is talking about. I used to tell a stand-up joke about eating the Dunkin Donuts tuna sandwich back when that was a thing. I used to eat it every single day. And to the point where I was like a known entity at the Dunkin Donuts, and they like called me tuna. And there was a whole joke with the staff where they'd be like, tuna. And I loved it. I thought it was great. And I really enjoyed the tuna sandwich. And I mean, it's like a little dramatized for the joke, but they like did when the tuna was discontinued because I don't think many people were ordering it. This is like maybe like, I don't know, like 2013, 2014. I was just like heavy into tuna at that time. I don't know. But
from Dunkin Donuts.
At Dunkin Donut. But yeah, when the tuna sandwich was discontinued, they like told me so I would know that it was ending soon.
Oh, that's so nice.
It was really, they showed up for me in a way that most people don't show up for anyone in their entire life. They were so empathetic. They wanted me to get through the situation okay. So I haven't found a tuna sandwich replacement, but I have found a Dunkin Donuts niche disgusting food replacement, which is the avocado toast at Dunkin Donuts, which I'm very into.
I didn't even know that Dunkin Donuts makes non-donuts. I mean, I guess I knew they made coffee.
They try all sorts of I think it's like the most beautiful circle of life, because they just try to like they'll try anything, and it's always like whatever the ingredient is, it will come in the little container that the cream cheese comes in. So like the tuna, same deal. Like they would open the little foil thing, and
wow.
inside would be like whatever was masquerading as tuna, and they would spread it on your bagel. Right now, the avocado, and it's not avocado. It's good, but it's like avocado toast is not supposed to like taste like a block of salt, but this kind of does. But I love it. it tastes like kind of sour and salty, and then it's just a piece of kind of wet bread. But I genuinely have it like at least twice a week. And part of it is knowing with the Dunkin Donuts food, it's so fleeting. Like there's no way this time next year that they're going to stick with this avocado toast, because it's disgusting and no one wants it except for me. And then it will go, and then I'll reminisce about the days of the avo toast at Dunkin.
Snack Chat.
Tony, have you ever had these items from Dunkin Donuts?
No, I feel like I've maybe had like one of the bagel sandwiches or something. Maybe
Those are good.
Yeah, that's about as far as I've gone, I think.
So
Get adventurous.
the tuna sandwich was tuna on a bagel?
It was I got tuna on a croissant. I did like a full-on customized like tuna melt, tuna piece of fossilized cheese on a croissant.
That sounds good. Okay.
It was good.
Let's see here.
They should make a hot dog. That's something that I really hope that pops up in the future of Dunkin' food. I would try a Dunkin' hot dog so fast, and it wouldn't be good, but I would keep getting it.
I mean, I don't know if you can reveal this, but thus far, like, where has the best hot dog you've had come from?
Oh, I can reveal that. My favorite one, and it's not even like a particularly hot take, because I feel like it's in the hot dog community. Everyone is kind of like, oh, duh. But it's this place in New Jersey called Rutt's Hut. And it's like on the side of a highway. It's been there for like 100 years. Every popular hot dog place has existed for 100 years and like burned down 5 times. But like Rutt's Hut is, they do this thing where they make these hot dogs called rippers, which just means that they like deep fry them until the skin rips open a little bit. Or you can order like a cremator, which is just a hot dog that's been cremated in oil, and it's so good. It's like unbelievably good. And they have all these, like, we went on, I didn't realize this was going to happen, but we were there on a Tuesday night, and Tuesday nights are biker nights. So we were in line behind 200 bikers to get the best hot dog I've ever had. It was electric. I loved it.
Wow.
So Rutt's Hut, if you live in New Jersey.
Such violent cooking methods. Ripper, cremator.
Yeah, it was intense.
They'll destroy your dog. Okay, Whitney C. would like to know, what's her best friend like?
Ooh, that's a good question. My best friend is wonderful. I love her so much. My best friend is very, I don't know. She's very funny. She's also a comedian, but she's very, I don't know. She's the most mature person I've ever known. She's very, very protective of people. She's very maternal. And also, I think the only person that I truly trust to give me an honest read on anything. Like she will give me a completely honest opinion even and especially if it hurts my feelings a little bit. So I just, I love her so much. My best friend Julia is the greatest. It's so weird. It's like I don't have a ton of friends that I would be like, this person is incredibly mature. But she is.
Where'd you meet her?
I met her doing comedy in Boston. We were there's a lot of women who do comedy there, but we were like the same age and both kind of like struggling with the same things and just like bonded hard and lived around the corner from each other and just like became attached at the hip. And she lives in New York now. I live in LA, but we still are super close. And yeah, I love her. She's the friend that, I don't know, after like I was living in LA for a year, she's like, you need to have a mattress for people and you need to like live in a place that makes sense.
What were you sleeping on?
I would argue I was sleeping on a mattress for people, but it was only about 2 inches, or it was not thick at all, and it was on the floor. And I had like my first longer term apartment in LA was just like it's weird to think about now. I was like, what was going on there? Where I was living in like a bungalow with a woman who I knew. I had like met her once, but then I don't know. She had like these rules where there were 2 rooms in the house, but she was like, well, we have to share a bedroom. And so we were sleeping in the same room, and I didn't have a bed frame, and there were mice. And so sometimes we had like a rule where it was like, I could get in her bed if there were mice around. It was just like so depressing. It was very, and Julia was the person that was just like, look, I know you don't have a lot of money, but I just know you can do better than what you're doing. Yeah.
Why did you have to share a bedroom? What happened in the other room?
I don't really know. I mean, it was like, I guess for context, I was in my first apartment in LA was a disaster. Like I just couldn't stay. So I had to move quickly. I sort of knew this girl and she had just broken up with her boyfriend. So I think she was used to having the other room be a living room and she didn't want it to become my bedroom. So she's like, well, you'll just sleep where my desk used to be before me and my boyfriend broke up because I like this room the way it is. And I felt like I was so low on the roommate totem pole, and I had like I didn't have any alternatives, so I was like, all right, sure, I'll sleep in a mattress on the floor next to you.
And the mice,
and the mice, and my little mice friends.
Well, Julia sounds amazing. Congrats.
She's the best.
Yeah,
she's great.
Okay, we have one more question.
Okay.
And it's from Trice Sanders. Any updates on the Mensa people after releasing the podcast, or does she want to let those particular sleeping dogs lie?
I mean, generally, I'd like to let them lie. There has been I left that group sometime, like once the show came out, I left it because I was like, well, no one's going to have anything productive or nice to say to me at this point. But I have
tall guy and number 2.
Number 2 especially makes it sound like I'm calling him poop, but number 2 and I are still buds, and he came to a show of mine in New York shortly before the pandemic lockdown, so I've gotten to like see and talk to him again. He's super sweet. And the other, I mean, I think that the real development that's happened since the show, which is not completely connected to me, I definitely can't take full credit for it, but that group is no longer an officially sanctioned group by Mensa. So it still exists, but it no longer has like the official seal of the organization. And that was a whole that was interesting. That was like last summer. There was a bunch of contentious Zoom meetings and voting that happened for that to happen. And someone slipped me the link to it. And it was kind of fun to watch all these people who had been like cyberbullying me and other people for years at that point, try to discredit the show that I made in this meeting. And they're like, well, you can't take what this woman does seriously. There's videos of her like butt chugging on YouTube. I was like, well, he's right, but also he's wrong. So yeah, that is the one development.
There's a video of you doing a butt chug on YouTube.
Yeah. I used to when I was like doing the essays and videos that were just like, hey, here's a thing. I was doing them hard. I was like butt chugging gallons of milk on.
Was that for Vice?
That was for Super Deluxe,
okay,
which no longer exists, but it was a very butt chuggy environment. And I mean that in a positive way. I really liked working there.
So how does that work then? Because isn't that basically just a milk enema?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's not great. I mean, it doesn't all like whatever. Like because I did it on stage as well, and the reason they asked me to do it is because they're like, well, we know you can do this. We've seen you do it in public. Or like I used to do a bit where I would eat dog food or whatever. I just had a very resilient digestive tract, so I would use that to my advantage. But yeah, it was like, I don't know. You just have to have someone you trust with you, and you do the handstand. They put the funnel. You can adjust the funnel, and not all of them. Like it's. I say I butt chugged a gallon of milk. A gallon of milk went into a funnel that was attached to my butt, but not all of the milk. You know, there's spillage. But you basically. I mean, for me, anyways, it just meant that if I was doing that bit like a full gallon, it has to be skim. You can't do full. Like that would be really dangerous. And then you just kind of like feel really sick for a day, and you just need to kind of lay down and fart and wait for it to pass.
I have 1,000 questions. Wait, why?
Please.
I don't mean to sound like a neophyte here, but why? What's the difference between full and skim when the milk is going in your butt? Because in my mind, isn't it just going in and coming back out?
No, some of it like hangs out for a little bit.
So you're digesting it in a way? It's getting into your system?
I don't really know if I'm digesting it, but I know that it takes a while to all leave your body for sure. And the skim milk is just it's just because it's like less thick. It's more watery.
Got it.
Going in. So that's more of an entry thing. Because otherwise it's just like it's too thick. I don't know if any of it would really take, and the bit would kind of not be good. But yeah, skim milk is just like a little more. I don't even know exactly. I mean, but it's just thinner.
And what is the bit? So it gets poured in your butt, and then what happens?
Well, that I need to remember what so for the dog food joke that I would do was about not having health insurance and making like home remedies, and it would like whatever culminate with a dog food home remedy, and no one wants you to eat dog food, so there you go. But the milk one was kind of fun. It was like I would do these like ballet routines. And it would always be like there'd be a number of props and stuff involved, and then it would culminate with a butt chug as like the grand finale too.
Got
I think that the one that was broadcast was the Nutcracker. And I would always like, I don't know, I would like add in some justification for the milk to be there, but the milk would be on stage the whole time. And then at the end, yeah, you would butt chug it.
Okay. That makes more sense than like in my mind, it's like 10 minutes into the thing. And then I'm like, what happens at that point? Don't you,
no, it's the,
don't you have
it
to
has
run
to be.
Right. Because don't you have to run to the toilet or no?
No. Well, actually what I would like to do, and this didn't always work out, but what I liked to do, and with the dog food as well, it would be like, do that next to last, because it's really fun. And at least in a live setting, it's really fun to like eat dog food and make people like absolutely want to die, and then just be there for 5 more minutes in a way that has nothing to do with the dog food, and just like really, really make them think about what's happened.
Got it. What kind of dog food did you eat?
I did. It's funny because I didn't have a dog when I was doing this joke, and looking at it now, I'm like, I would not feed this to my dog. But I did Alpo, I think it was Alpo Gravy Cravers was the brand that I would go to because it just like looked good on stage. It kind of just tasted like lukewarm stew, so it didn't feel like if you could get yourself there mentally, it didn't feel like dog food. So yeah, Alpo Gravy Cravers is what
you recommend. That's so interesting. I've always wondered what dog food tastes like. So it just kind of tastes like people food.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, like wet food. There's some that when I started doing that joke, I didn't know anything, and I was eating like, what is the pedigree? I was doing pedigree at first, and that literally has like shards of bone in it. Like that was like the worst. And then so I switched to a formula that's supposed to be like, oh, this costs $1.50 a can. Like this is some like nice stuff, and it just kind of looks like Campbell's chunky soup.
So you've never tried kibble though?
I've never tried kibble. No plans to at this time.
Jamie Loftus, it was so fun talking to you.
Thank
Giving
you
me a
for having
lot
me.
to think about. Specifically,
We've really run the gamut.
I know.
In this episode.
I just pour the milk right into my coffee. It's like I'm missing a whole way of taking it in.
Oh my god. There's so many ways to experience a gallon of skim milk.
I know. I really need to. When am I going to start living in color? You know. Listen, if you guys like what you're hearing, please make sure that you, in whatever app you're listening, make sure you're following or subscribed. I don't know the language anymore, but just whatever you have to do to make it so you get your episodes automatically, do that so you don't miss any. Tell your friends. Leave us a nice comment if you enjoy what you're hearing. 5 stars would be just phenomenal. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Allison Rosen. I mentioned I'm on Patreon. I'm also on Cameo. I have a book out, Tropical Attire and Courage and Other Phrases That Scare Me. And Jamie, tell everyone where they can find you and what they should look out for.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Jamie Loftus Help, Instagram at Jamie Christ Superstar, or you can check out some of my podcasts. There's My Year in Mensa, Lolita Podcast, and Aack Cast, which is AACK Cast, and that's about Cathy comics. And that's where I am. Yeah.
Wonderful. Tony, what about you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at
Tony Thaxton.
and I podcast Bizarre Albums every Tuesday.
Jamie, that voice is Jackie Johnson, who voices Cathy in your podcast.
She voices Cathy. She is the perfect Cathy. It's every week I'm just blown away that she's done it again.
She's done it again. Yeah, she's great. Thank you so much. It was so fun talking to you.
This was so much fun.
Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go. Yeah, Allison Rosen